Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life in Sport podcast, and we are on a Mariners tangent of late. We've done quite a few episodes in about the last week or so. We've had quite a few Mariners players. We've had a former coach in Laurie McKenna. Well, we've got another former coach. His name is Phil Moss. Thank you for joining me today. And how's your day been so far?
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Great. It's a Friday, so can't
Always
complain
good when
about
it's a
that.
Friday.
Another weekend on the way.
That's it. And speaking of the weekend, obviously, before we get into an interview sort of chinwag, the Mariners play Adelaide United this weekend for a potential home finals berth to finish in second position. They've got to take that from Adelaide United, of course. Do you think they have what it takes to win?
I do, absolutely. I think, Cooper Stadium is well known as an intimidating place to go, but I just feel this Mariners side plays without fear and, they've got a really gung-ho style about them
It's
and
reminiscent
mindset.
of the 2012-13 season team a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's right. I mean, I still think they're building the Mariners under Nick
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery. I don't think they're the finished product yet, but certainly love the way they play, and it's great to see Monty doing so well as a young manager. And if anyone can go to Adelaide and get the result, it's the Mariners in the form they're in.
Oh, absolutely. And well, fingers crossed. And there's one more question I've got before we go into the interview type of stuff is if the Mariners qualify for the AFC Cup, do you reckon they again have what it takes to possibly win it?
Whoa, that's a big question.
It is.
Yeah, anything in Asia, is really tough. The logistics around travel and the thin squads that we have in the A League. They've certainly got what it takes to go and be competitive. And
Yep.
and if they get on a roll, you never know what's possible. But certainly being part of Asia, I enjoyed being part of Asia with the Mariners every year that I was there, and it's a wonderful competition, whether it's the Champions League or the AFC Cup for a club like the Mariners to be part of.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, only one club has won it beforehand, which was Wanderers. So it's no easy feat for anyone that's listening. It's definitely a whole different game changer. I was interviewing Daniel McBreen the other day, and he was part of they went over and played there 2 days after winning the grand final, and they managed to get a win. um, yeah, so
Well,
it's
I was on the pitch with Arnie that morning when we
yep.
landed in Korea, and
And he said that you guys just said stretch, do whatever you want to do. Is that true?
yep, we
Yep.
literally said have a stretch, have a walk, a bit of a juggle, and then Arnie turned around and asked the players who wants to play in
Fair.
the game. Put your hand up if you're right to play, and that's how we picked the team. It was so close to the grand final, and obviously we couldn't stop everyone, having a little bit of a celebration after the
No,
grand
of
final. But we
course.
had to fly out at I think it was like 6 a.m. the next morning. So when we got to Korea, it was literally who was prepared to put their hand up to play, and the
How
squad that we
many
had
put
at
their
the
hand
time
up,
and
if
the
you don't mind me
mindset.
asking?
Sorry,
How many put their hand up, if you don't mind me
everyone,
asking? Oh,
everyone. Funnily
that's
enough.
amazing. That's testament to the squad. That really is.
Exactly. So no, it was great memories.
Absolutely. So let's get started. Obviously, at the very beginning, where else? Obviously, you're born in England and then you moved to Australia as a young child. Do you remember much of the UK?
Well, no, I convinced my parents to move here when I was only 3 months old. So
Fair enough.
I was I think that's where my influencing and management skills
Were they
started.
10-pound poms?
Yeah,
Yep.
no,
No?
Dad, mum's Australian, so
Okay.
she went over on a ship to England, and Dad's brother was the ship's doctor actually, and
Oh,
met,
okay.
met Mum and thought I need to introduce you to my brother when we get to England, and the rest is history. But I've been
Nice.
back a few times, and I do love it over there. I often wonder where my football career might have gone had I stayed in England, but
Yep.
I didn't. I
Whereabouts in
came here.
whereabouts in England were you born and like your family from?
Dad's Mancunian,
Okay.
unfortunately, because I
Mm-hmm.
follow Liverpool,
Oh,
and
well, I'm a massive Leeds United fan because I've got
there
family
you
from
go.
Leeds. So yeah,
There you go.
Definitely not a Man United fan.
No, that's right. But yeah, so with a fair bit of rivalry in our household, my two brothers and dad are all Manchester United fans.
Yep.
But I was born in London, in a
Okay.
place called Lambeth. So it was, when I went back there when I was about 10 or 11, it was an old rundown hospital
Oh wow.
with broken windows, cobwebs everywhere. But yeah, it was good to go back and
It all
see when I
began.
first entered the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, as you mentioned, you have two brothers, and sports runs in your family. Obviously, your younger brother Jonathan ending up being a first class cricketer. What? Obviously, he's a cricketer. What got you into football?
Oh, look, there's a a famous photo. When I say famous, famous in our family, that
Yep.
before I could even walk, mum and dad put a football in front of me, and there's a picture of me in the backyard in a nappy, with these bandy bow legs and a football right in front of me, and the look in my eye said it all. I
Yep.
was clearly in love with the football before I could even stand on my own 2 feet. So I
Kind of
think
like
that's where it all
musos with like a
started.
guitar when they're like 1 year old, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know where it starts sometimes, but then you see a photo like that and you go, it's no
It
wonder
makes
I've
sense.
chased a round ball around for so many years.
No, that's fair enough. And obviously, we already just covered that. My next question was going to be, did you or do you follow a team in the Premier League, which is obviously Liverpool? So my next question regarding that would be, who was your football idol growing up?
Um, Look, I'd probably have to say Craig Johnson.
Yep.
I met Jono when I was 15 on a schoolboys tour of England in the trophy room at Anfield.
Oh, as a
We had a
Liverpool
lot.
fan for yourself, that would have been like
Oh, it was
church. It would have
mind
been
blowing.
amazing.
It was mind blowing, and it was the year before he ended up coming home and retiring early and surprising everyone. But we had a lot in common straight away because he's a Newcastle boy. I'm Northern Beaches in Sydney
Yep.
boy. So we loved our ocean and the sand between our toes and surfing and things like that. So we hit it off straight away, and since retirement, Jono and I have become good friends, and we stay in touch, and we often have good conversations. He's a wonderful guy, a pioneer in a lot of ways, and
Mm.
he was someone I really looked up to when I was a kid.
That's amazing to hear. And obviously, every sporting career starts with junior footy. Junior sport, no matter what it is. And your junior sports, obviously, you said Northern Beaches was with Manly Warringah. How did that come about? Obviously, was it just because, time and place and like location, it was just the closest team for you? And how'd that go for you?
Yeah, well, before that, it was Coleroy
Okay.
Soccer Club and Cromer Soccer Club, and then they merged to become Cromer Coleroy Strikers, of which I'm a life member. So, I think we need to make sure we trace it back to the very first
I was trying
ones
to find
because,
somewhere where the very first was, but I couldn't find it. So thank you for
yeah.
letting me know about that. So it began there. So tell me about that.
Yeah, look, I had some wonderful coaches in my really early days, and I remember, just lacing the boots on for the school team on a Friday morning, and then playing club on a Saturday, and then when I was old enough, obviously moved into the rep scene at Manly, which is Manly United now. Used to
It's
be
now, but it
Manly
was
Warringah.
Manly Warringah.
That's
Were they
right.
called Manly Warringah just as a to have that sort of name association with the rugby league clubs? That way people would know, oh, it's like, for lack of a better term, reputable, or were they trying to be their own team as well?
Yeah, no, just their own team, and we represented because back then it was different councils,
Yep.
so we represented the Manly council area and the Warringah council area. So
Gotcha.
that was it. But it was a very good club. It always has been, and Coleroy and then Cromer and then Cromer Coleroy and Manly gave me a really good foundation for my career because they did things the right way and they did what was best for players. So forever grateful.
Now that's amazing to hear. And obviously, you spent some time in the National Soccer League or the NSL, which is, you could say, the precursor to the A League, with the Northern Spirit and among other clubs. What was it like going from Manly to Northern Spirit?
Yeah, look, it was great. I actually there was a couple of clubs in between. I went from Manly to Central Coast
That's right, you did,
Coasties,
yeah.
and then the
Before they
Coasties.
were the Mariners, way
That's
back
right. Yeah, exactly. Well,
with Andrew Clark, right?
Andrew Clark was there, Damien Brown, Alan Burke was our coach. So some really well known names on the coast, and it was fantastic. Drove up there for 4 nights a week for training, up there for the weekend game, and really that was where I first fell in love with Central Coast. And
Yeah.
so to go up there to the Mariners years later was a no brainer for me. But there was also a club Eastern Suburbs that I played under Joe Watson, the former
Yep.
late Socceroo, Jinky Joe. And it was from Eastern Suburbs that Arnie Graham Arnold saw me play. He'd actually come along to watch Paul Henderson, the
Yep.
goalkeeper, that day, and Hendo was playing for Sutherland. I was playing for Eastern Suburbs, and I had a couple of strikes on goal. Hendo pulled off some brilliant saves. He got signed that day, and Arnie gave me a call the very next day. So that's how the whole Northern Spirit thing started.
Yeah, nice. And obviously, I can't go without asking about the 1997. I'm probably going to butcher the word. Is it Maccabea or Maccabea?
Maccabea. I've heard it
Okay.
called Maccabea as well, but
I just didn't
Maccabea
want to
Games.
say it wrong. So yeah, the '97 Maccabea Games, obviously there was an absolute tragedy. To anyone who's listening that may not know what the Maccabea Games are, it's a sort of like the Olympic Games for the Jewish international community. There's 34 events, as in sports, is what I'm led to believe from my studies and trying to research it. But in 1997, it was a very somber occasion. There was a massive tragedy where, honestly, just before you more or less were going to step onto the stage, it collapsed, killing and injuring a lot of people, injuring your brother in the process as well. If you don't mind, just talk to us a little bit about obviously the event, the day, and the repercussions and whatnot it's had for you and your family.
Yeah, sure. It was, even thinking about it now and hearing you talk about it, it still brings goosebumps. It was one of those moments in time that is so surreal. We were making our way into the stadium for the opening ceremony. There was about 80 odd thousand people in the stadium in Tel Aviv waiting to welcome us in with all the teams from around the world.
Yep.
And the bridge that crossed the Arcon River that would then take us into the stadium collapsed under the weight of the people on it, including my brother John, who was right in the middle of the bridge, and it sort of collapsed in on itself. So he was at the top of the arc of the bridge, if you like. So it was like a trap door, and he was the first to hit the water. And
did he survive? Luckily, I hope.
Yeah, he did.
That's good.
A few leg injuries, but he was one of the lucky ones. And I know for a fact, because I saw him scrambling up the bank when I sort of raced to see if he was okay, that he dragged a few people out of the water with him
Oh,
to
that's
make sure
incredible.
they were safe. But we unfortunately lost 4 lives
Yeah.
through the tragedy. And we had a very, very strong leader at the time. Ian Gray was the coach of the football team, the late great Ian Gray, former Socceroo.
Was Jonathan on the football team?
No, Jonathan was playing cricket.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say because there's a lot of sports that are played in the Maccabea Games. I just wasn't sure because he's a cricketer, but I'm like, you were football. I wasn't sure. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, he was in the cricket team. I was in the football team. But it was just a really good with Ian Gray and the chef de mission for the whole Australian team making a speech to us back at the hotel. It was just a great example of leadership in a crisis.
Of course, yeah.
It's something
and calm
that
under pressure sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. And it really, it shaped my thinking around leadership and how important leadership is. And, these days post football coaching, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to go back to coaching. You never know what's around the corner, but, I'm a leadership coach at NAB, the bank. And, it's something I'm really passionate about because it makes such a difference to people's lives.
Absolutely.
The type of leadership around them.
Which is incredible. And also I find that obviously I've not been through that sort of situation, but you definitely find out for lack of a better term, the stuff you're made of, whether you have the leadership in you or not when those sort of situations are presented. And obviously your brother and yourself definitely found out that you do have the leadership qualities in you.
Yeah, look, I think leadership is about the tough times. It's pretty simple to stand up in front of a group when everything's going well, but when things aren't, or there's a crisis, or you've lost 3 or 4 games in a row, that's when true leadership qualities shine through. And if you look at Graham Arnold, who's obviously a good mate of mine, a mentor, and someone I worked with last year, when just about every Socceroo fan was baying for his blood, and it was on the brink whether we'd qualify for the World Cup, he really stood up. He showed just what a strong human being and leader that he is, and the rest is history.
Oh, absolutely. And bringing to the point of what you just said of, it's easy to stand up when it's gone through the good times. And obviously the Mariners went through a few bad times. There was 3 years of the wooden spoon in a row. And those years were really trying for obviously Mariners fans to wear your colors week in, week out, and show up to games. It really shows the character of not just leadership, but, of the person, if they're willing to show that, because it's easy to wear your team's colors when they're winning and they've got grand finals, but it's even harder and, to do it when they're going through a loss. So I absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, look, the last thing I ever wanted was to leave the Mariners. I certainly didn't want to. I could see brighter times ahead. We had to go through a bit of a rebuild at the time, and
every club has to go through that at some stage.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'd lost a lot of players in the January transfer window of my second season, which didn't help results, and results weren't great. And I understand, why the club decided to move in a different direction. But had we been able to just get through that period, I've got no doubt those wooden spoons wouldn't have been there. But
Yeah.
it's great to see that under Alan Stadgic in particular, and now Monty, that the club's being restored to where its rightful place is, which is competing every season. The little club that could became the little club that couldn't, and it's now becoming the little club that can again, which is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And it all ties into with leadership as well, which is kind of a underlying theme to this, you could say, episode. But obviously, enough of your playing career, coaching time. Obviously, we've spoken a little bit about your coaching. You started off coaching with Manly. What was that like?
Well, funnily enough, and it's probably not on record, but my first ever coaching gig was a local
Gallery?
Premier League side
No.
called DY
Okay.
Swans in the Manly Warringah Premier League, and won a trophy in my first season there,
Oh,
and
wow.
then got an opportunity to coach the Northern Spirit youth team. Just in a grand final, I was sort of helping around the periphery, but Ian Crook was the coach. He got signed by Newcastle United, and had to leave the week of the grand final against Marconi.
Jeez.
And the coach at the time said, "Want you to take the first grade coach said go and take the youth team for the grand final." We got spanked. I think it was 5-0 or 5-1, and that day I really fell in love with coaching,
Okay.
which
So
is
like it was
bizarre.
never like on the radar for you before that point, really. But like that point,
Uh,
it was like I want to give this a good crack.
Yeah, look, it was there in the mind, but it was whether I'd make a realistic fist of it or not. I wasn't sure, but that day I remember walking into the dressing room after the game and youth team. So it was a group of kids, really 17, 18, 19 year olds, and their world had collapsed because we'd just lost a grand final. We'd got beaten, well beaten, 5-0 or 5-1. And I remember just saying a few words to them to try and lift their spirits. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden, shoulders started coming back, smiles on faces. And I made them realize that experience was actually going to make them, not break them.
Oh, absolutely.
And just seeing the change, the shift in mood, I thought you can really have an impact as a coach, and that leadership lesson, obviously that I already learnt from the Maccabea games. So yeah, that was the day I decided to really pursue my coaching dreams and goals.
Which is amazing to think about. And obviously, your time at Manly, and then you headed over to the Mariners as an assistant under Graham Arnold during a very successful time with the Mariners as well. There was a grand final win and all that sort of stuff. What was it like going from, you could say, the NPL sort of thing to the A League?
Yeah, well, first of all, due credit to Manly United here and Manly Warringah Association, because they gave me a blank sheet of paper.
Yep.
They said create the football department.
Wow.
We'll put you on full time, which was unheard of back in those days. We're
Yeah.
talking 2003, four.
Yep.
And so we created something really special at the club, and I was full time, and we got a couple of other positions full time. So that gave me a chance to really sink my teeth into being a director of coaching, a first
Yep.
grade coach, make some mistakes that were out of the spotlight, and learn my trade properly.
Yeah.
So
Rather than just being a coach, you were also a manager.
that's right. Yeah, I ran the football department, and that was a great grounding. So I'll be forever grateful to Manly for that. And then I got the opportunity after assisting Arnie with the Olyroos in 2006-7 for the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
I got the opportunity to go with him up to the Mariners in his first season up there, and I remember him inviting me to his unit in North Sydney and laying out a plan, and I was really excited about it. So the first 6 weeks up at the Mariners, I sort of took the pre-season with Andrew Clark and John Crawley, because Arnie was at the World Cup,
Yep.
2010 World Cup in South Africa. So it was a sort of straight into the fire.
Bit of a baptism of fire, you could say.
Yeah, but it was fantastic, and again shows the trust that Arnie puts in his staff, and B, it was a great sort of learning curve for me, stepping straight out of NPL into A League, helping prepare a squad, for the season ahead, and then the 3 years up there with Graham were just incredible. 50 points plus 3 years in a row, two
Yeah.
grand finals, a premiership, a grand final win, Asia, qualifying for the round of 16, like that's stuff that dreams are
It's
made of
unheard of. Yeah.
when it comes to a small club like the Mariners.
Absolutely. Like, because I grew up on the Central Coast from about the age of 4 all the way through to now. And exactly, like, who would have thought that a team from the Central Coast could be representing a nation more or less over in Asia, sort
Yeah.
of thing.
And
It's
that's what we
incredible.
used to say to the players every time they took the pitch in the Asian Champions League. It is, you are going out there as Australia tonight. It's not
Yeah.
just as the Mariners. You are representing the country, and you could see the players grow, 10 foot tall and really
Yeah.
put their best foot forward.
Absolutely. And obviously, you made the transition once Arnie departed into the full time head coach, head manager role at the Mariners. How was the transition for you from assistant to head coach? Was it made a bit easier because you'd been there for a while at the time?
Yeah, look, it was fantastic, and a lot of credit to Peter Turnbull, who was the chairman and owner of the club at the time. He put the faith in me, and obviously with Arnie's backing and the players' support as well. But you could feel a shift straight away once you go from being the assistant and more about being the friend of the players, I guess, and all care, no responsibility to overnight being the boss and
Yeah,
the chief decision maker. So there was a shift in the relationship, but I had a great relationship with the players at the time, and it remained that way until the day that I left. It certainly wasn't the fault of the dressing room or anything. It was I had a different beliefs to the new owner at the time, Mike Charlesworth, on where the club should go, and I could see the writing was on the wall because we were just letting all of our best players go,
yeah,
selling them, and the club, unfortunately, as a result, was going to suffer. Because of that. But certainly no regrets from my point. It was a proud moment being appointed head coach of the Central Coast Mariners, something no one can ever take away from me. And particularly at
absolutely
that
not.
club, I think, I had a real affinity with the area,
Yeah.
an emotional attachment to Central Coast. And, my time at the Mariners is one of the best periods of my career.
Absolutely. And no, as you said, no one can take that away from you. And speaking of your time at the Mariners, who was coach's pet for like to you, sort of thing? Who always like sucked up or, this, that, the other? Who was coach's pet?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Certainly don't think I had a coach's pet, but what I did love was the way the senior players grabbed hold of the young kids coming through and
Yeah.
and and really led with distinction both on and off the field, because kids can't develop if you don't have the right senior players around them.
Yeah, of course.
So I was really proud of the likes of John Hutchinson, Nick Montgomery, those types of players. At the time, Liam Reddy, was up there as our goalkeeper. So those type of players really helped develop the likes of Anthony Caceres and the Bernie Beanies. Daniel McBreen, of course, was one of the senior players as well. They really helped bring those kids through, which ultimately made a lot of money for the Mariners, with the sale of those players.
Oh, absolutely. And so the reason I ask that is because I like to ask everyone that I've had on that's a coach who was coach's pet, because there's either one or two, or there's, not, which is it's fun to find out. And speaking of fun questions, I've got a quick fire round of just, not football related, just some quick fire fun ones. First of all, Apple or Android?
Apple,
Oh, absolutely. What's your drink of choice?
Great Northern,
Very nice. What's your favorite food?
spaghetti marinara,
Ooh, nice. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Rocky 3.
Three. Okay. Very nice. Very good choice as well. It's a very good film. Favorite music to listen to?
Johnny Farnham,
Yeah, nice. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
to be able to fly. I
Yeah,
think that's
fair. Yeah.
everyone's dream at some point.
It's usually fly or teleport or something like that.
Exactly, just to get a bird's eye view of the earth and life and things like that. I love
Yeah.
being up in the air.
Yeah, nice. There was superpower music. Just trying to remember. There's one that I didn't add, but I usually always ask it. 1 second. There's Apple, Android, beer, food, movie, music, power. Um, I've asked coach's pet. I think that's it for the quick fire questions. Oh no, so that's right. It's a recent one I've just started, which is what's your go-to canteen snack at a local football game?
Oh, definitely a steak, onion, and egg sambo.
With a Coke or a Gatorade to go with it. That's taking me back to the childhood. So obviously you were talking about that you're part of the leadership team or head of the leadership team at NAB. Is that what you're doing these days, or are you doing other things as well?
Yes, I'm a executive leadership coach at NAB, which is a fantastic role. Really love it. Working with a very wide variety of senior leaders, executive leaders every day. I also commentate the A-League men's and women's for Paramount Plus.
Yep. Are you doing any games this weekend?
Yeah, I've got Macarthur and Wellington tomorrow
Oh,
night,
nice.
which
That
is a
should be
big
good.
one. Big,
It
big
is.
game that. Macarthur trying to avoid the wooden spoon, Wellington trying to qualify for the final. So a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And I also have a radio segment on Big Sports Breakfast Sky Racing 3 times a week. So and apart from all of that, president of Football Coaches Australia. So
Yeah. Wow.
which I'm really proud of. That's a passion project. It's something I'm really, really passionate about because, like the PFA who support the players, the coaches up until 5 years ago never had any support. So
Yeah.
it's really been a fantastic collective support for coaches in Australia and helps take coaching to a new professional level because so many people saw coaching as a hobby up until
Yeah.
the last sort of 10 years. So they need support.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously you were talking about your radio show and all that sort of stuff. What times can people catch you on the radio in the mornings?
Big Sports Breakfast, Monday, it's on Sky Racing, 10:17 on the AM dial, and I'm on there Monday mornings, Friday mornings, and Sunday mornings,
Okay.
around about
So
the sort of
hopefully around
7:40.
football times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, got to get up early and watch the Premier League games to give my report in the mornings, but it's good fun. Michael Clark, Laurie Daly, and Jared Middleton are
Nice.
the three hosts.
Very nice. And obviously, speaking of the Premier League, Arsenal have bottled possibly one of the biggest, like a gifted season, basically. What are your thoughts on Arsenal's, you could say, even though they're no longer going to win it, their season so far?
Oh, look, it's been brilliant.
Yep.
It won't be seen as brilliant by fans and pundits because if they don't win it, which I don't think they will now, it'll be known as the choke, the great choke. But I still think they've taken huge strides in the
It's
right
a
direction.
successful season compared to their last season.
Oh, that's right, exactly. But when you're so close, they were 8 points clear
Yeah,
4 weeks ago.
it's kind of
Right?
it's a little bit. It's funny it's not funny for them obviously, but it's kind of as an outsider, it's a little bit how do you manage that? But it can happen.
Yeah, it can. That's right. No, I guess what's come home to roost is what I feared all along, and that is the lack of experience to close the deal, if you
Yeah.
like. But I think this will be a huge step forward towards achieving that, and I think
Yeah.
Arteta has shown that he can manage at the top level.
Oh,
Learned a lot
absolutely.
under Pep Guardiola, and I think it'll only be a positive in the future when they look back on this season.
Oh, absolutely. Like if obviously I don't think they'll win it either now, but if they do, it'll be next season or the season after because they really are, as you said, Arteta has proven he can do it. And with this season's experience for these players, maybe next season or the season after, you can see them, lift the league winners shield and whatnot. I've got two more questions for you. The current question is, what are your thoughts on the B League being like coming into existence for the tiered, promotion relegation system for the A League?
Yeah, the National Second Division. It's a great debate, isn't it? It drives a lot of conversation. Look, I think it's imperative for us to have something that closes the gap between NPL and A League. What model that takes, I'm still not convinced we've got the funding and the clubs can afford to pay a second tier of full-time players and coaches and administrators. Because that's what it needs to be successful and viable. But certainly, I think the first step is launching a competition around the country that closes the gap between the two.
Gives you more football on the weekends.
Yeah, that's right. More football, more opportunity for players, more opportunity for coaches, which is going to develop the game. Better players, better coaches. I think we're still a fair way off promotion and relegation, if I'm honest. And I love Manly United as an NPL club, but I can't picture Manly United in the A League just yet. If they were to go on and win it and get promotion, just from a point of view of infrastructure and resources and finances. So, yeah, I think we're a way off promotion relegation, but I am a big fan of just closing the gap between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just mentioned, it will close that gap. It'll bridge the between NPL and A League. And honestly, if you've got, it's going to sound weird, but like some teams may have three teams in each league. You know, example, Mariners may have a B League. You know, like they had Lightning back in the day, so it may go, you know, Mariners and then Lightning and then their NPL team sort of thing. And it'd be great to see all three games at the Central Coast when they have a home game, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it would be, and that's a pipe dream. And well, you never know; it might be closer than what we think. But I think the other ingredient to throw in the mix is the Australia Cup and what
Yeah,
that's done, to bridge the gap between professional football and semi-professional football. And when you see clubs like Sydney United playing in the final,
yeah,
against Macarthur,
it
it
gives you some
shows that
hope.
we're not a million miles away, but there's still some work to do
Yeah.
in bridging the gap.
Oh, absolutely. And my last question is, what's next for Phil Moss?
Who knows? I guess the thing I've learned more than anything else is never say never to
Yeah,
anything. So, I miss being on the grass and coaching every day. That's once that's in your veins, it's in your veins. And I did it as a player. Was lucky enough to do it as a coach. I'm not doing it at the moment, but you never know what's around the corner. So, I guess my only answer to that is never say never.
that's that's a great answer, and I think that's a great way to end the episode and the recording. So, thank you very much for your time. I definitely appreciate it, and I'll definitely get you on it either the end of the season or the start of the next season to do like a season recap or preview sort of thing. Get your, you could say, professional opinion of the season ahead.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's been a pleasure being here, and keep up the great work. Life in Sport podcast. It's a great platform for people to come and talk about what they love.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. Take care.